When you hate another individual, often, more often than not, it's really about a hate that you have inside of you, of yourself. But you can't really see it in you because love is blind and we're blinded to see that which is really inside of me. So we see it in another. When we see it in the other, we point it out in them. But as the old saying goes, you're pointing one finger at someone, it's three fingers back at you. It's a mere reflection that we're seeing of ourselves. Let's listen to this idea of the students on campus and what Douglas Murray has to share with us. And on the flip side, I'll share some more.
There is quite a lot of reflection on what the anti-Semitism of the moment means. And you borrowed from Vasily Grossman, Life and Fate. I want to read that quote. Anti-Semitism is always a means rather than an end. It is a measure of the contradictions yet to be resolved. It is the mirror for the failings of the individual social structures and state systems. Tell me, he wrote, what you accuse the Jews of, and I'll tell you what you are guilty of. You update that and edit slightly, saying, tell me what you accuse the Jews of, and I'll tell you what you believe you are guilty of. Does that apply to those students at Columbia, at Harvard, at Michigan, at UCLA, everywhere across the United States?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll just quickly, Grossman's brilliant insight about this is absolutely applicable today across the Middle East. Look at the Iranian revolutionary government in Tehran. It accuses Israel of being a colonialist, expansionist state. The mullahs in Tehran since 1979, when they seized control of that great country and ran it into the ground, have been colonizing not just Iran, they've been colonizing Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. So when they accuse the Jewish state of colonialism, it is they who are the colonialists in the region. The president of Turkey, Mr. Erdogan, often refers to the colonization that he accuses Israel of, and he accuses Israel of being an occupying power. President Erdogan is the president of Turkey, which currently occupies half of Cyprus. They have occupied it for 50 years now, illegally occupying half of an EU member state whilst being in NATO themselves. So when Mr. Erdogan says that the Israelis are occupiers, he's telling us what he is. He's telling us what he is. Now, how this applies to the student protesters and others in America is something I put a lot of thought into, because in my last book, The War on the West, I wrote about this anti-American virus that has been caught in the last generation in this country, and how people, particularly at the most privileged institutions, were spreading this idea that America was just this terrible idea, that America was uniquely guilty, that America was guilty of colonialism, white supremacy, racism, slavery, and so on. They had turned into an entirely anti-Western and anti-American view of the world. And in the last 18 months, as I saw from the 7th of October onwards, as I saw here in New York on the 8th of October, where protesters in Times Square were praising the massacres of Hamas that Hamas were doing as they were going on. What I saw was these people were all accusing Israel of occupation, colonialism, genocide, white supremacy, and so on. And I thought, this is interesting, because this seems to me to be a version of what a psychologist would describe as projection. These students have been told, and I wondered in the War on the West what would happen with this. They've been told they, by dint of being in America in the 21st century, are guilty of these alleged crimes of America in the past, some of which nobody disputes, slavery, for instance, some of which genocide and ethnic cleansing and so on are eminently disputable. But they've been told that these are all the story of America, and they, by being Americans, are guilty of them by descent. And I said in the War on the West, this is a very dangerous position, because nobody in question is guilty, and there's no one around who can accept an apology, nobody alive either perpetrated or suffered any of these crimes, where the crimes are true. So what you see in the last 18 months is certain types of students in America who believe that they can expiate the guilt they've been told they should feel by attacking Israel in the here and now for all of these things that they themselves have been told that they're guilty of. And this is a very dangerous situation, but it undoubtedly fuels this fervent, hate-filled movement, which is so disturbing and should be so disturbing to Americans everywhere.
Fascinating. So, firstly, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement in the 18th century, he said, when you see a fault in another individual, it could be for one of two reasons. One is to, in a appropriate, loving way, help them through their fault, help them through their struggle. That's an obligation that we have. We have to be there for others. They're struggling through something. They're not dealing with something appropriately. They've done something wrong. Help them in a loving manner, of course. The other reason why you see somebody do something wrong or they're guilty of something and you are privy, you saw it, is because love is blind and we don't see our blind spot. We don't see it in us. So God makes things happen that we see things in others in order that we can recognize that we have the problem in us. Now, of course, if you are a grown-up, so you'll own that which is yours to own, and you'll grow from where you're at to become a better person, to become a better servant of God Almighty. And that's how you become a better servant, is because you own what you need to in your life to improve yourself. But if you go around and just pointing fingers at others on how they're guilty, that's completely off the charts, because you're not recognizing that really the guilt is in you, because if you spot it, you've got it. Now, of course, it's projection, as Douglas Murray said, about their guilt that's been projected upon them, that, American society is guilty, period, and therefore it's been projected on them. They project guilt on others as a result, and they have to absolve themselves of their guilt. How do you do that? By pointing a finger at others who they project have the same guilt. But as it was projected on them, it's been projected on others. That's already a completely different level of complete absurdity. Complete absurdity. It's not even your own guilt. It's been projected upon you. That you're American and you're white, so you must be supremacist. You're guilty for the sins of 200 years ago or whatever. That's complete projection. Now you project it on others because you feel that guilt and you want to absolve yourself. You want to atone for the sins of your forebears that has been projected upon you. That is so ridiculous. I can't even begin to. But the basis of it is what we see in others is because what we see in ourselves. So let's make a pact together, whoever's listening still. Let's meditate every day and try to think of loved ones. Let's start with our loved ones. Let's just start with them. With our loved ones, and project upon them goodness, compassion. Try to see their good side. Familiarity breeds contempt, and because you're familiar with your loved ones, sometimes you may have contempt. Don't think about that at all. Just think about their goodness. Think about how their wonderful character qualities that they do have. Meditate upon that and help that to bring you closer to them. Maybe in helping them in some way, or maybe just be more loving towards them. Whatever it might be, do an act of loving kindness towards them as a result of that. That's the projection we need. A positive one. Where's that come from? Because you willfully chose to be good, to do good. You willfully choose to care. You willfully choose to be empathetic. Could you see negativity in others? Yes. But how about try this out, to willfully try to see the good in another and act upon that goodness by doing an act of loving kindness. Oh boy, well, we changed the world for good. There's no doubt about it. What are your thoughts about that? You want to hear more about this? Come join me daily with my classes on Tanya, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube, Tanya Rabbi. I'd love to have you share with us. We have lots of people who join us. I'd like you to be one of them.